Okay, Bill. We should.
All right. At a little bit after 6 o'clock, we will go ahead and get started. Has everybody had a chance to review the meeting minutes from April 13th?
Yes.
Yes.
Questions, comments, any corrections need to be made?
Not that I saw.
Okay. And then Mitchell, if my memory is any good here, sometimes I got to question that. You still there? Looks like we lost the screen.
Nope, sorry. I was just sharing my screen, so. There, he's back.
Okay. Mitchell, what we need to do, I guess, is just take when we make a motion or whatever, everybody needs to go individually and just say their status. Is that right?
Yeah, I think what we did last time was have Ryan do a roll call just so we know
Okay. That
who's
works.
all voting which way.
I will point out you guys had one revision to the minutes. It's just an administrative issue. It showed that it was a meeting at the town hall, so
Oh, I noticed that. Okay.
I'll modify that to show that it was a virtual meeting.
Very good.
But other than that, I think everything else, if you guys are okay with it, looked fine.
Very good. I guess I go ahead and say that I motion to approve the minutes then
I move to approve the minutes with the change.
with the change, right?
I'll second.
Bill,
I motion to approve the minutes as presented or with the change.
Jason? Jason?
I accept.
Andy?
Yes.
Grant?
Approve. 4.
It was approved 4-0.
Okay, moving on then. Next I'm showing is the current invoices. I see four groupings here. I believe that have been presented for this evening. Is that right, Ryan?
Yes, that's correct, Bill.
Okay. And this is accurate information, no supplements or anything here?
Yes, the information you have is correct.
Okay. Has everyone had a chance to approve to view the invoices?
Yes.
Yes.
Any questions, comments, concerns, revisions?
No.
Anyone like to make a motion for the invoices approval?
Make that motion.
Jason seconds it.
Who made the motion? Sorry, was that you, Andy?
Yeah, Andy Adler made the motion.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bill?
I approve. Well, I vote to approve.
Jason?
I vote to approve.
Andy?
Vote to approve.
Grant?
Approve.
Thank you. It approved 4-0.
And then on to old business, the police station expansion update. Ryan, what do we know?
Yeah, this item isn't for you guys to approve tonight, but I wanted to give you a quick update and make sure that we're on the right path. And if we are, we will bring back to you guys next month a contract with Edwards Rigdon. So I think I shared this with you guys last month that we would like to hire Edwards Rigdon as our owner's representative for the project. You guys approved the architecture selection. Edwards Rigdon would be the construction manager, which means they will be a project representative or an owner representative. They'll represent the town in making sure that the project is done according to the plans, but they will also bid out the projects. They'll create bid packets for the trades, for the different trades. They will actually search out and find contractors to do the job, review bids and approve bids and make sure that all the contractors are qualified to do the work. And then they'll do all the inspection of the project as it moves forward, review and approve invoices, make recommendations to you guys if it's okay to be paid, and so on and so forth. So the proposal that you have is that they would do all of those things for a 10% of the total cost of the project. So the architect would actually work for them, and then the value of all the other the bids that we get, then we would pay them 10% of that amount. So if you guys recall, the estimate for the project was about $130,000. And then the estimate for the architect was about $15,000. So we're probably somewhere in a $150,000 range for this project. So 10%, their contract would be for about $15,000. And so again, just wanted to kind of run this by you guys, make sure you're okay with this concept. If you are, we're going to continue progressing it. And then we'll bring you guys an actual proposal with Edward Drigden next month. Happy to answer any questions.
So what's the other option if we don't use these guys, or we don't have a project manager?
So the other option is you could bid it with a general contractor who would get their own subs and do the work, but then we would still have to pay somebody. We don't have somebody on staff who can manage the construction and do the inspection. Mike Tully, our building commissioner, could do inspections to confirm it complies with the building code, but he has to keep a separation between actually managing the project and just doing inspections. And so we'd still probably have to pay someone to do inspections on our behalf, which is why we find this to be better for us, because then we actually end up saving money, and they're looking out for our best interests in the project. So we'd still have some expenses. It may not be quite as much because we'd have to pay someone to do the inspection for us to make sure the work was being done right, but it may not be quite as much. But this model has shown to be more efficient, and then it's an owner's representative instead of a general contractor who is only interested in making more money. So that's kind of the difference.
And we've used this model before.
I'm sorry, Jason?
We've used this model before on other projects.
Correct. Actually, we've used it for every building that the town has built, except for the police station. And for those of you who weren't around when we did the police station, we should have used this model because we didn't, and we had problems with our building. So, but we did this for the town hall. We did it for our salt barn. We did it for our maintenance building and our shelter in the park. So almost any facility we've done, we've kind of used this model.
Okay.
Ryan, if I may inject, on your capital funding plan on page 3, you do show the remodeling of town hall as project number 23 with an estimate of 115,000. Is that still a good number?
That one's the town hall, Greg. The police station is the project above it.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I still think what's in there, I think what do we have, 135 maybe?
35, yep.
And I think that was the construction. So that amount didn't necessarily include the architect and then this cost for Edwards Rigdon. So that's kind of how we get to the 150 number.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like this is something we've done in the past. It's worked out well. So we're not really breaking new ground. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't go to the actual bidding phase and bring back a bid to us, right?
I agree, Andy.
And I would agree too.
Okay. We will keep moving on that and get you guys more information, and we'll be back to see you next month with more information.
From a cost-effective standpoint, Ryan, it really just makes the best sense to do it like this, doesn't it?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Ultimately, that's kind of the reason you use this model, is it's supposed to be more cost effective. And then you
Looks like
also have someone looking out for your interests versus
Yeah, looks like it.
may not.
Yeah, very good. Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, so you're going to bring more information regarding this and Ryan formally next month?
Yep. Yeah. That was more of just an update for you guys, and I'll bring back more next month for you guys.
Very good. Okay, moving on to the new business, the public hearing on the declaratory resolution creating allocation area number 2.
Yeah, so if you guys recall, actually, I believe back in March, you guys actually passed a declaratory resolution to create Avon Landing allocation area number 2. So if you guys recall, Avon Landing had 2 different allocation areas. We had the original, which is where the industrial development will take place. And then we agreed as part of our agreement with Avon Landing to create a second allocation area, which is where the apartments will be. And that's Avon Landing allocation area number 2. So that's this area. Now we created this one a little bit uniquely. If you guys recall, we said it would only be in place for 12 years and that it would only be in place long enough for them to capture 5 years of the full assessed value. And then at that point, once either or of those expired, either 12 years or the 5 years of full AV, that this allocation area would actually go away. And the reason we did that was because of the apartments and the potential impact to school district. So this is just creating that Avon Landing allocation area number 2. And this is, you guys have to do a public hearing. And we distributed information. Greg Garitos actually did an analysis of the impact to all the other taxing districts, which we distributed to all of them. This one's kind of unique because this is one that does not impact any of the Avon taxing districts. They impacted the Brownsburg School District, the Brownsburg Fire Territory, Brownsburg Library. So it didn't impact any of the typical Avon taxing districts. And so they were provided information and they were made aware of the public hearing tonight.
What was their comments or feedback, Ryan, when we made them aware of that?
We provide them a copy of the notice of public hearing, and then they're provided the financial information. And a note, Tom mentioned to you, Greg, he did talk to the town manager of Brownsburg, who had made his way to him, and he just said, good luck with the project. They wanted a map of the area just to know what we were doing.
But really, there was really no negative repercussions that came out of this from the school corporation or from the town.
We
I don't know.
talked to the school, didn't we?
We did, yeah. John went and talked to the school superintendent. So I wouldn't say that there were no negative repercussions. I just think they understood what we were doing. And I think they appreciated that we weren't taking 20 years and that we were limiting the TIF district. But again, I'll maybe let John speak to that. He's the one who talked to the superintendent.
Well, the superintendent was okay with it. In fact, I drove up to Brownsburg, met with he and his chief financial officer. By the time I got back to town hall, he had already sent Tom Klein a note saying that they were okay with it. And he indicated that they would appreciate getting 15 years of TIF because they normally don't in the town of Brownsburg.
So Bill, if there are no other questions, you do have to open the public hearing.
Okay,
Again, we have a little bit of lag, so we'll check on YouTube, make sure we don't have any comments.
okay.
And they were supposed to email me any comments if they had any, so I'll check my email, make sure I don't have anything as well.
So I'll go ahead and formally then, Ryan, open up the public hearing at 6:17 p.m.
I don't have any comments on YouTube, but you may give it 30 more seconds, Bill.
Okay.
Bill, I've got no emails,
Nothing coming through, Ryan?
and there are no
Okay.
comments on YouTube either.
Okay. Well, at 6:18 p.m., then we'll go ahead and close public comment. Okay. Next up is the, okay, then the resolution is separate, correct, Ryan? That 2020-03?
Correct. Yep. So
Okay,
yeah, your next step in the process then, you guys passed a declaratory resolution,
right.
and then it had to go to the planning commission. It had to go to the town council, and they've all done their steps.
Okay,
And so now it comes back to you guys. You had your public hearing, and now you make the decision if you want to officially create the district or not. And if you do, you should pass a confirmatory resolution.
okay, so we can just go ahead, we need to get a motion then for the, its passage?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I, Bill Reed, will go ahead and make a motion to for the confirmatory resolution for resolution 2020-03 for the Avon allocation area number 2.
Jason
I'll
Tuttle,
second.
second.
I had a Jason Tuttle second.
Or
Yes.
Grant. Yeah, I think we're at the same time, Grant.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. You guys ready for a vote?
Ready?
All right. Grant,
4,
Andy,
Yes, 4.
Jason,
For it.
Bill,
4.
all right. It was approved 4-0.
Okay, then and thank you for that. The next step then, the resolution 2020-0 for the TIF pledge.
Yeah, so then this is kind of your guys' last step in the Avon Landing process. Everybody else has done their part. Then this is basically for you guys to pledge the revenue from the allocation areas to pay back the bonds that we're going to do for Avon Landing. And so you guys are now pledging the TIF to the EDC to pay back the bonds. And so this is your last step in the process. And then we'll turn it all over to Mr. Garatos and our bond counsel, and they will proceed forward and sell the bonds.
Very good. And then we go ahead, I beg your pardon then, right? We need to go ahead and get a motion in for this then, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, I will motion for the approval of resolution 2020-0 for the TIF pledge.
This is Grant. I'll second.
All right, you guys ready for a vote?
Yes.
Andy,
Yes, 4.
Jason,
For.
Bill,
4.
Grant,
4,
it was approved 4-0.
Okay, and then the capital improvement plan.
So I'm going to turn this over to Greg, and he's going to walk you through it. While he's walking you through it, I'm going to try to pull it up on the screen so you guys can see it. Hopefully you also have it in front of you at home. We're going to go through this a little bit quickly. And so you guys, if we disappear a little, it's because I'm trying to share my screen.
So thank you. And to start out, Ryan, if you would go to page 2, this is, you've seen this schedule before, and this is the overall summary of the major projects that we are hoping to achieve in the town of Avon going forward. Now, when I said hoping to achieve, we do have more projects, at least overall, than we do have the ability to finance it. We decided to give that to the town council and hear their interactions, in which we did last week on some of the various projects. We do, though, really want to go to the TIF cash flow, which are the projects that we went over kind of similar to last year and kind of bring you up to date. So if you want to go to the TIF cash flow, Ryan, and that's quite a bit of ways back there. If I get there first, I'll let you know, but I may have passed it up. It's the one with the bonds is page 49. So we spent a lot of time last week at the council meeting discussing the most major project, which is the 100 South, or project number 1. And that's the one that we're going to be issuing a debt on, as we had talked to you all about. But what we're going to do is we're going to try and do it somewhat unique. What we're going to do is we're hoping to be able to move this project to what I call a level 1 and level 2. Level 1 is we need to get the bids in from Ryan on the 100 South widening, and you see it's labeled there, the 2020 bonds. What we're hoping to do is get those bids in here in June or July and get an actual number. The number's been changing quite a bit because of engineering estimates and things like that in the bid market. So once we get the bids in, then our goal is to give what I'm going to call a limited notice to proceed. And the limited notice to proceed will be given for phase 1 of the project. What that will do 2 things. Number 1, assuming that the bids come in good, that will give us ability to take our cash that's on hand, along with our funding sources that we've received from Plainfield. And if you want to give them an update on the county situation, Ryan, specifically, you can, or I will. But we'll be using our cash on hand with our grant money from Plainfield. And we'll be giving that limited notice to proceed to take us all the way to April of 2021. We're doing it that way so that we have a window of opportunity, which is most of this summer and maybe even the first of the year, to issue our bond, decide what the proper size is, come back to you obviously numerous times, get our leased premises, because this is a building authority bond. And so getting our all of those things ironed out, and then getting ready for a good point in the market. The market has 60 days ago, we wouldn't issue the bond at all. And lately it's been very, very well, very, very good. And as long as we may even want to beat the election, we're just kind of doing that overall timing. So, but we can't get there until we get the bid in, and then we will go ahead and get the contractor moving as fast as they can, if it's an acceptable bid, with all the earthwork and those type of things. So, Ryan, do you want to specifically talk a little bit more about 100 South widening before we get into some of the other ones?
Yeah, I guess Greg did a good summary of kind of the situation. So as of right now, we'd like to get your guys' blessing to continue forward with the project as well. It's the next item on your guys' agenda too, but they're kind of both together. We'd like to kind of get your guys' approval to continue forward with the 100 South project. Our next step to do that will be to advertise it for bid. As of right now, we're hoping to open bids June 25th. So by your July meeting, we would know what the bids were, which will help take out some of the uncertainty, actually a lot of the uncertainty of this project, by knowing what the actual bid amount will be. And we've put a provision in there to hold the bids for 90 days. So that'll give us time to review them, decide if we like them, decide if they're good, and kind of allow us to maybe work through some of these other fine points, as Greg has mentioned. I'll also share, because I don't think you guys didn't know this last month when we met, but we did hear back from the county, And the county has agreed to give us $1.75 million. But they said that they would give it to us over 15 years. So they would like us to put it actually into our bond. So they'd like to finance that $1.75 million. So we would add that to the amount of bond we were already doing. But they did it paying us no interest. So they basically said, you're going to finance our bond, but we're going to pay zero interest. And so Town of Avon, you can pay the interest. And that works out to be almost $600,000 over the 15 years of the bond. So we're a little disappointed in the county's position. We tried to be nice. We offered this bonding solution to them as an opportunity to help them with their cash flow if they didn't have somewhere to pay for it. And then they kind of took advantage of that kindness that we offered. So we'd like to maybe continue discussions with the county. And so moving forward at this point, as we've proposed, moving forward to bidding it, allows us some time to continue talking to them and maybe seeing if we can get them to approach the project differently at this point.
So Ryan, for the redevelopment commission, this 115, that's what that item is, the revenue source.
Yeah, so if you guys see up at the top where it says county revenue, 115,000, that's 1/15 of the 1.75 million.
Now, any questions on that? Ryan, I wanted you to jump to the next page, which was, we always showed the commission, if we don't issue the bond.
Hey,
what
Greg, I have
will-
one comment.
Okay.
I think one thing to point out, that's a 15-year bond. We have the ability to go higher. Is that correct? We can do a 20 to a 22-year bond?
I don't know right off the top of my head, Greg, what is the time limit? It's in your sustainability, what the time limit of the various allocation areas are. So subject to review of that, I believe we could go further. We just have to line it up, and we've been lining the debt service up with the expiration of our various allocation areas. Because
Right.
Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have 5 allocation areas, almost.
So theoretically, if we did go 20 years, that $115,000 of county revenue goes down because we're spreading it over 20 years and the interest cost goes higher.
Well, that's one assumption. One assumption is in the agreement, they agreed 15 years, so we keep it. I don't know with your agreement that you put together, that you saw from John, Ryan. I mean, that the option I would say is no, Greg, that's not true. We leave it at this. But
Yeah, I haven't seen exactly how the agreement's written at this point, but I think you're right, Greg. I think they proposed 15. But Greg Garitos, I think you're right as well that one of our largest allocation areas, which was the original TIF district, actually goes offline, I think in 12 years. And so I think we were trying to be careful about that. But that's a good point too, Greg Zuzan, that you brought up, because if you guys look at the estimated revenue here up on top, we've assumed that revenue is going to be flat for the next couple of years.
I'd say 5% reduction,
Yeah.
Ryan.
Yeah, so a little bit of a reduction, and then that it'll start growing again. We have not built in to those estimated revenues any assumptions about the economic development of the north side of County Road 100 South. So we've assumed, even if we do the road project, that the north side of 100 South won't build. And I know that we received confirmation from the engineer for the Mormon Church that they are going to proceed forward with a rezoning of that area and hopefully bring forward development plans for the first building. So we're hopeful that's going to happen, but until It's actually approved and under construction. We've taken a very conservative approach here, which is what we should do, because we don't want to get caught assuming our revenue is going to grow a whole bunch and find out that it's actually not. So Greg did a good job with that. So just make note of that in your guys' minds as well.
So, Ryan, I was going to have you go to the second page, which clearly shows that we cannot issue the bond and just pay cash for this, because in order to do several of the other projects that the council would like to see, and in order to have at least a minimum fund balance of $1 million or whatever, we'd like to have $1.5 million, but it just cannot be done. So this is what I showed you in the past, and the reason why we're to this point at this time. So on this one, you can see the various other projects that we're trying to get done, and the impact on, if 100 South widening would be a lot larger than what the bid would come in, Ryan may have to come back to the Redevelopment Commission and push some of those back, or we may have to not accept the bid. So it is really critical that we get that bid in and we try our level 1, level 2, and that's our recommendation at this point. So any questions on any of the other projects that we've scheduled out? Ryan, if you want to go back up to the next page.
You want this one, Greg, or you want to?
Yeah, that's kind of the song sheet we're singing from for Fund 471, which is the TIF fund.
Is it realistic at all that we would be able to drastically reduce, if not eliminate, the 115,000 here in terms of a payment we'd be responsible for?
Well, now the 115 bill is revenue coming into the TIF district.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Okay.
That will be used to offset. Their initial offer was 1 million, and then when they went up to 1.7 million, no interest. But we're treating this as a source of funds
I got
to
you.
offset
Okay.
the bond
Thanks,
payment.
Greg.
Sure. Great question, because there's so many numbers here.
Hey, Ryan, I got a question for you. As far as maintenance of the road, is that done through the county in this area, since it is county road, or will it be under the towns?
No, it will be under the town of Avon. There's a small section that is in the county, which is the piece we're asking them to contribute for, which is basically the easternmost portion where Sunchase subdivision is, if you know where that's at.
Yeah.
Basically, that section to Ronald Reagan is in the county. So part of the agreement that the county is asking is they've said they'll give us the money, but they actually want to relinquish the roadway to us, which means it would become our road and we would become responsible for maintaining it. So right now we don't maintain that piece, but then we would accept maintenance of it if the town council decides to agree to what they've proposed.
Okay. All the right of way secured. And it will be, the acquisition is done now, or I thought I saw on the report that it wasn't quite finished, or?
Correct. Yeah, we have not cleared right of way yet. We have one parcel that we're waiting on a mortgage release for. We have one who we're still talking with. And then we have 3 in condemnation. One is the Mormon Church, the other one is Browning and Duke, and the other one is All Points, which is the Duke Walmart building. And we've had some discussions with them, but we don't think they're going to agree. So we have court hearings on all of those parcels in June. And so we expect by August 1st, we'll have right of way clear.
Any other questions, comments for Greg Garrett or anybody else?
That's all I had.
So Ryan, did you want to segue into the resolution?
So I
Or
guess
did you want to hold off still?
I want to just, so you guys did have, there's a couple other things, Greg, before the resolution.
That's fine. Go.
So we'll get there maybe in a second. If you guys don't have anything else on the capital improvement plan, we can be done with that.
That's all I've got.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I had.
Okay.
And then I guess next is the County Road 100 South, the improvements I'm seeing, Ryan, is that right?
Yeah, so I put up here on the screen, again, we presented all this information to the town council last week, and they gave us direction that they would like us to continue forward to bid the project. But I wanted to make sure I was sharing with you guys. You have a couple things on your agenda here tonight. Plus, I wanted to show you the most recent cost estimates, and so you could see where the total project cost was at. And so we'll talk about it in a minute, but we do have some utility relocation. We got a revised water relocation agreement from Citizens Water. We had previously approved a $280,000 utility relocation. Now they have a different design. They want to move further away. And so we have an alternative one. So the cost went up for that. And then we also do have a new cost estimate. And so our previous cost estimate was about $13.2 million. And our most recent one that we just completed is $15 million. We had a couple of other things that were separated before that we've now lumped into that construction number. And one, you'll see it right below it. It says mitigation. We have some wetlands that we have to mitigate, and we're going to build those in the Burnett Park property that's at the the northeast corner of Dan Jones and 100 North. We've rolled those costs in. It's built into our project. So that was about $300,000 previously. So it's now rolled into the construction number. Then we also had some West Central Conservancy District. If you notice, there's a number for West Central Conservancy District. They have some sanitary sewer that is going to be relocated. They have asked us to just include it in our project. So some of their design in their review numbers we've been reimbursing, but the actual construction number has now moved from that WCCD line into our construction number, because we're gonna build that when our contractor is out there, which is actually better for us. It saves us money when a contractor is already mobilized out to the site. It'll actually be cheaper for us versus West Central hiring or bidding a project and giving it to somebody else to just come do that. The third thing that grew the project was, I think I told you guys about this before, on the east end of the project, there's two property owners who we've impacted their septic system. And so we've had to design a low pressure system to connect to the town of Plainfield sewer system to provide them sanitary sewer. And so that cost now has also been rolled into our construction number, and we'll do the same thing with that. We'll build that as part of our construction when we're doing the rest of the work. Then we also included landscaping costs, and we're planning to bid those landscaping costs as an alternate. They're about $400,000, which is for landscaping in the roundabouts, then in trees along the entire corridor. It looks really nice, and especially since it's going to be a very industrial looking area, we'd like to keep those, but we recognize that if the bids come in, that may need to be something that we need to cut from the project. And so all of those things combined pushed our construction number up a little bit. Plus, if you guys recall, we had originally planned to bid this last year. And so we also have another year of inflation. And really the way we're bidding this project, we really don't expect it to start. The heavy construction part likely won't mostly start until next year. And so we still have a little bit more of inflation in there. I will also say that our construction estimates, the way we do them, we use NDOT bidding software, which is an 18-month rolling unit price from NDOT bids. If you guys recall, last year, NDOT really drove up bidding prices. So we feel pretty comfortable that our estimate is high. And we think that this bidding environment is conducive to us getting a much better number than what we did. But I wanted to be honest and upfront with you guys and share with you that I think originally we were looking at an $18.5 million project, and it's grown to about a $20.5 million project. So just wanted to share that with you guys and make sure you're aware of it. And then, like I said, the town council asked us to continue moving forward. So we just want to make sure you guys are on the same page as well. I included this document for you guys as well, which is the project percentages. Plainfield has agreed to what Plainfield is showing, which they've asked for a couple of things, plus their share of the construction limits is going to be somewhere between 1.7 and 1.8. And then obviously you can see why the council was disappointed with the county, because based on our existing estimate, their share is somewhere in the area of 3.2 million, and they're only willing to give us 1.75. And so just kind of wanted to keep you guys in the loop on that as well. So with that, I'm just looking for consensus from you guys that you would like us to, that you're in agreement with continuing the project moving forward and getting the bids. Happy to answer any questions.
Is this price construction, does it include like signalization, MOT or and all that put in there? Oh, okay.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's all built into our construction costs. Maintenance of traffic, a new traffic signal at Ronald Reagan Parkway and 100 South. It includes a bridge just west or just east of Dan Jones. There's a bridge that we're replacing. And then further down, just east of 900, there's a culvert that's being replaced as well. So there's a couple of things. It includes the 3 roundabouts, everything in the project.
Is there any more room for negotiation on any of these numbers, Ryan, or are they just set? Like in terms of the county contribution and all in Plainfield?
Plainfield agreed to do what we're showing here. So I think they're in agreement with continuing on forward on that. We are going to continue having some discussions with the county. I don't know if there's room to negotiate with them still or not. We're going to kind of maybe try to continue those discussions as we're proceeding with the bids, and then obviously seeing what the bids do will help us determine how painful that decision by the county is. We also have to be a little bit careful because, you know, the county could give us nothing. So we kind of want to walk a fine line there.
Have they been known to back out of a project before if there was ever an issue with negotiation?
No, but I think they've kind of taken a bit of an unprecedented stance with us so far on this. So I would hope they wouldn't do that, but they had some of those discussions when we were at meetings about why should they contribute. You know, this is really just a Town of Avon project.
So do we have any leverage at this point, or we don't necessarily need any leverage, or what's our current, just kind of let this is where we are, status quo, or?
Yeah, no, that's really kind of our problem is we don't have much leverage, other than them just making a contribution. It's really, at this point, it's more of a political issue. And so there's nothing really practically that we can do at this point, other than just to continue have discussions. And then again, I think our hope is if we can get really good bids, then maybe the pain of that decision by the county doesn't hurt as bad. And so then maybe we just don't worry about it and we accept what they're proposing to give us and move on.
Any other questions, comments on the County Road 100 South improvements? And I beg your pardon, Ryan, what kind of timeline are we looking at over here? Just, are we set for a start on any of this, or won't this would come around when?
So if on the schedule that we're doing now, we'll get bids on June 25th. So at your July meeting, we will probably have a very in-depth discussion about whether we want to accept the bids or not. The way we've set the schedule for the actual construction, there are some items that will get built in 2020, some like the bridges and the culverts, some of the sanitary sewer work, tree clearing. Some of that stuff will occur to help get utilities out of the way so that the contractor has a blank canvas when construction can really start next year. So I would expect the majority of construction that people will notice and see, and when we'll actually do the closing, will actually probably be around March 1st of 2021 and continue through till Thanksgiving of 2021.
Any other questions, comments for Ryan?
I have one
Yeah.
more question.
Yeah, go ahead, Grant.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ryan, we talked several meetings ago about the Mormons. They were going to help potentially with one of the roundabouts. We were concerned about semi-traffic and so on. Was there anything ever? Did we come up with a resolution on that, or?
Yeah, I think we did. The Mormon Church did their own traffic study and made some comments. The only suggestions they made were some striping modifications to the roundabout designs. And we've incorporated those changes in our final design.
Oh, okay.
So we believe that we've resolved all of their issues. There were some long-term issues that in 20 years they had concerns with. But I think those are things we'll work out with them as they go through their zoning process, in that we'll do some protective right-of-way takes from them potentially as part of their zoning, which they've agreed to provide, to basically, if we need additional capacity in the future, that we'd be able to come back and accommodate those issues.
Yeah. That's
And
good.
so I think for the most part, we've gotten the Mormon Church to agree with what we're doing. I know Mitchell's been working through the condemnation with them, and we're hopeful that they're going to agree to the take, or that they'll actually just sign our right-of-way documents. We expect that we'll have to pay them for that at this point, but we're not certain until we get it resolved. So we're continuing to push that forward.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I had a quick question regarding the negotiations with the county. Is this something that like Tom and like the city council have been engaged in, or is it at our level only, or how far has this gone up the flagpole?
Yeah, it's all the way at the top of the flagpole. I know
Okay.
Greg has been involved in some discussions. We've had a couple council members involved. Tom has.
Okay.
Tom's been working on it as well as myself. So yeah, and like I said, the town council isn't very happy with the decision that was made.
Yeah,
When they-
hopefully that, this is something that we remember, I guess, if they ever need help from us,
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. I figured that was the case, so just wanted to confirm.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments for Ryan regarding the 100 County Road 100 South project review? Okay, Ryan, we'll move on to the Citizens Energy Group Utility Rate Relocation Agreement.
Yes, so as I mentioned earlier, Citizens, we had previously approved, it was about $280,000, a utility relocation agreement with them. They came back, originally, they were gonna try to leave a portion of their line underneath our bridge. And after looking at it closer, they decided that they didn't think that was in the best interest of their facility. And so now they're proposing to move it a little further out, which is gonna require them to acquire an easement and kind of do like just they're gonna have to do like a weird angle to get out of the right of way, so or to get further away from the bridge, so that in the future if there's any issues with the maintenance of their facility, that they don't need to mess with it. So basically, their proposal to do that has increased the cost of the relocation, and so this relocation agreement would replace that one that you guys previously approved. Like I said, which was about $280,000. So it would be $407,200. And I'm happy to answer any other questions. Otherwise, American Structure Point reviewed it and they think that it's in line with their typical construction costs. I will note that these are actual construction costs. So even though we approved the $407,000, if it comes in less, we only pay them exactly what it costs. If it comes in more, we still have to pay them more. So we are responsible for actual construction costs. This is just an estimate.
So if they want to change it for their benefit, that should be on them. That's the way I've always understood it. I mean, they're doing it for their own benefit long term, not for anything that we're asking them to do, from that piece.
Yeah, I think the problem with that, Jason, is because they're in an existing easement. You're right. We can't pay them what they refer to as like a betterment. They can't improve their facility, but because they're in an easement, they have a right to move out and be reimbursed for their costs. So
they were okay with it to start with. That's what I'm correct. Yeah, I know them. Yeah.
Yep.
Can you change the language, the contractual obligation, to say something like a time material to a ceiling amount versus if they go over, they go over?
No, because the statute requires us to make them whole for whatever cost they incur to move as a result of our project. So the law doesn't give us that right to say, no, we can't do that.
But is this change something that they have to do?
No, I mean, they had some relocation expenses before, but now they've basically designed it differently in a way that's a little bit more expensive. That's basically all they did.
To benefit them.
To benefit them, yes. But then there's no way we can avoid it because they still have to get out of the way. So
can we just say no and let's do what we agreed?
You can, but then they won't move. And then we don't build the project. So
it's like a lot of one-way negotiations going on here.
Welcome to utilities.
Yeah, I was gonna say this utility process does not ever feel fair to the municipality. I always feel like we get the raw end of the deal on it, but it's the way the law is written, and so we don't have a choice.
Hey,
They have
Ryan.
they have much better lobbyists than what municipalities do.
They do.
Yes, they do.
Hey, Ryan.
Yes, Bill.
Just for the record, what's the city of Avon hereinafter referred to as city? What's up with that?
Oh yeah, it does say City of Avon.
I mean, legally, is that, I don't know, does that nullify things or?
That's our loophole.
Take them to task, man. Throw them underhanded.
Nice job, Mitchell.
Yeah, it's not I didn't write that.
Yeah, we didn't write this. They
Oh.
wrote this.
Oh, okay.
That should be changed though.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, legally, that isn't true, correct?
correct. We're not a city.
Yeah, we never have been. Any other questions,
Small
comments?
town, we get it for half price.
What's that?
Since we're a small town, we get it for half price.
I'm thinking
I'll
better-
second that.
they better play ball accordingly, Greg. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Any other
did you-
question? Go
Is there
ahead.
an extra zero up top too, maybe?
Hey, Ryan, so I'll ask the obvious. I assume that, so Structure Point has exhausted all possibilities of trying to design around this.
Correct.
Situation.
Yeah. Because it's the bridge replacement, there's really nothing we can do to avoid it. You know, we have to have the bridge at a certain way to make the hydraulics work. And so, yeah, there's really no way. They've looked at possibilities, but there's really no other options at this point.
That they like.
Correct. Yeah.
Sorry.
Nope. You're
Beating
okay.
beating that dead horse.
Any other questions, comments on the citizens utility relocation? Okay, moving on to the resolution 2020-05 for the annual determination of need for assessed value. Ryan.
Hey, Bill, if you guys are okay with that, I need you
Oh.
guys to take a vote on it, please.
Oh, beg your pardon. Okay, all right.
You can make it subject to them changing it from city to town. And we can get our revenge on them.
There you go. Get
Bill
them on that,
only had 100,000 to make those changes.
Yeah, they'll add their
get 'em on
attorney-
get 'em on
You gotta-
technicality, Ryan.
We got to take the wins when we can.
That's right. Get them on that technicality, I'm telling you. I will so move to do that.
I'll second it.
Jason,
I approve.
Bill,
I'm approve.
Grant,
4.
Andy,
I approve.
it's approved 4-0.
Okay, and then we'll move on, Ryan, to resolution 2020-05, the annual determination of need for assessed value.
Yes, so every year, if you guys recall, prior to June 15th, you guys are required to make a determination if you have excess assessed value that you can pass on to other taxing entities, or you have to make a determination that you have no excess AV. And this kind of worked well with us presenting the CIP because we kind of just walked you through everything. And so Greg Garitos and staff's recommendation is that you pass a resolution that says we have no excess assessed value. The resolution kind of walks through how much TIF revenue you have and what your projected revenue is per year, which is right here. And then it has a listing of projects that you guys, and these come directly right out of the CIP, has a listing of all the projects that you guys have planned. And then here kind of down at the end, it just says the commission determines that there is no assessed value that can be allocated to other taxing entities. And so if you guys approve this, your recommendation will be passed on to the council, and then it will be shared with all the taxing entities.
And Ryan, just to add, you can clearly see the numbers that we had gone through earlier support the resolution.
I'll move that we accept the resolution as presented.
I second.
Bill,
I'm for.
Grant,
4.
Andy,
4.
and Jason.
4.
The resolution was passed 4-0.
Okay, thank you all very much for that. Ryan, and actually question for you and Greg Garitas both. In light of what's going on with the pandemic, do you all necessarily see changes in budgeting or whatnot that may or may not affect some of these projects?
Well, Bill, speaking, yes, we do. Matter of fact, we're staying on top of it very, very closely. That's one of the reasons why we introduced this phase 1, phase 2, because in the event, the auditor's office is telling us that things are going quite well for collection of property taxes. But if for some reason, once we get past through the 60-day period, there could be a possibility of a substantially lower payment than we think. The auditor's office is looking at it in total. So we really we told Ryan, we really want to get past the first installment, be sure in the heck before we would issue any bonds. And so we are just closely watching. We went through that in great detail with the town council. There's going to be numerous hits to food and beverage, to income taxes, and all of those things. But I will, all that's been phase 1 of that has been explained within the sustainability analysis and the way we're looking out 3 years. So likewise, we'll keep the Redevelopment Commission apprised of the situation, monthly. We'll keep you updated.
Thank you. I guess the good news, if there is any over here, is that a lot of people say that this recession and whatnot may in fact end during the calendar year, which I guess is really the best case scenario from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of lights. We've heard from Charbonos and people like that things have been, even though they were down, Copper Kettle told me they were only down 50%. So because they really made up on it, with that. And a lot of people still were employed. So there were still, but the withholdings was down for the first quarter in Hendricks County by about 20%. So even though a lot of professional people were working at home, they were still employed and making wages. So, but it will be interesting to find out how much the service industry income will be impacted.
I'm going to take a wild guess that 90 days ago, no one really knew the term pandemic, and they know it now. The game's changed big time across the board. I'm sure stuff written into codes now that wouldn't even thought of 90 days ago. It's been amazing. Wow. Ryan, you got anything else?
I did maybe want to share one other thing with you guys to give you a heads up. If you guys recall, you guys approved a bid for Milestone to repave Dan Jones Road. They're going to be starting that this week. So expect to see signs going up and to see that patching going on. It has a completion date prior to 4th of July. If you guys recall, we were doing a added left turn lane at what we refer to as Maria Lane, which is the school entrance off of Dan Jones Road, just north of 200 South. If you guys recall, we were having some problems with kids trying to turn into the school and backing them up into the roundabout at 200 South and Dan Jones. And so American Structure Point was designing a left turn lane there to help facilitate the movement of traffic. And they were right on the heels of wrapping that up. And so I quickly sent that over to Milestone and asked if they would give me a price to actually build that left turn lane at the same time they're doing the Dan Jones Road paving. One, I think this will save us money, and 2, we'll end up with a better product because we're not going to pave it and then 2 months behind have someone come in and do some widening and mill back out our existing pavement to tie in new grades and curbs and stuff. So I don't have a price from them yet. I was hoping I'd get it to show you guys today, but I haven't got it yet. but when I get that, I'll shoot that out to you guys because I'd maybe like to do that as a change order. It was going to be a redevelopment project anyway. The estimate's about 150,000, so we'll see what it comes in at. But just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that. If you don't hear something from me between now and your June meeting, it'll probably be on your June meeting agenda. I don't have anything else, Bill.
Hey,
That's it.
Hey, Ryan.
Yes, Grant.
Okay, quick question. Will they also be coordinating with, there's that subdivision going in just south of 200 South? I can't remember the name of it, but I know they're working on
Fairwood?
the entrance. Yeah, will they be coordinating with them as well?
That one may be tough. We've been talking to them, but I
Yeah.
think their timing for pavement is still maybe towards the end of this year. And so it may help if because Milestone may delay their resurfacing a little bit because then they're going to need to do this widening before they do the resurfacing. So adding this to our project may allow us to do that. But other than that, we were too far ahead of them to probably match in too much. But we've had some discussions with them. We just haven't quite been able to work that out yet.
Okay.
We'll have some issues on the north side too, up north of 200 North, where that Harmony subdivision or that Harmony medical office building is going in. They're going to have that same situation up there too, Grant. But unfortunately, sometimes we just have to work around it. The timing just doesn't work out right sometimes.
Right.
Hey, Ryan, is the Cooper's Hawk still moving forward with everything going on?
Good question. What's going on?
Good question. It is not moving forward.
Ooh.
No, I don't. It's not gone away, but they've stopped construction. And so I had talked to them right when the pandemic all started, and they were scared we were going to shut them down. And I had told them then that we were going to let them keep working, but then they made a corporate decision to stop it. So there's not been anyone out there working recently, at least not that I've noticed. Hopefully here as things are starting to open up, maybe they'll get started again.
Has ground been broken? I mean, I know that it's cordoned off with the fences. Did they actually break the ground too?
They did. Yeah, they were moving dirt. They've put some of the infrastructure in, some of the water lines, sewer lines, storm systems. So some of the underground infrastructure has been done.
The pad looked like it was pretty well done too when I went by the other day.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, some of the earthwork was pretty close to being to a point where they could start going vertical, but I haven't seen them recently working. So
when did they put the brakes on this, Ryan?
Probably end of March.
Oh, really? Oh, yikes. Now, have you been in contact with, or you or Tom been in contact with any of their personnel?
No, not beyond some of the guys working on the site construction guys. No.
Wow. Anything else, Ryan, of note?
I don't have anything else. Thank you guys. That was a big agenda. Good job.
Are you hoping necessarily that we will in fact be back in town hall next month, or is that just kind of up in the air yet?
It's still up in the air. I would expect right now, I think the town is looking at maybe opening up on June 1st. Depending on what the governor does with executive orders, it's going to depend on if we can have meetings in person. I would hope maybe our June meeting we can do in person. It won't be in the conference room. It may be in the council chamber, and we may be spread out. Either that, or we'll be doing virtual meeting again. And so I'll let you guys know as we get closer.
Well, you've done a fine job getting these going, Ryan. I know it's a little bit different with all the technology and all, but kudos to you. You've been doing a fine job as always.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it. You guys have done a good job too.
All right. Now I'll go ahead at this point and motion that we adjourn and pick this up next month.
Second.
All right.
All right.
With that, gentlemen, have a fine Memorial Day weekend and we'll talk soon.
You too.
Thanks, guys. You too.
Great.
Thank
Thank you guys. Thanks, Greg.
Yep.
Thanks.
See you guys.